Today is Thursday, March 6th, 2025, and this is a meeting of the Senior Center Site Selection and Building Committee. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. So I call us to order at 6:05 p.m. Are there any amendments or revisions to the agenda? I think the only one I have is, I don't think there's any February minutes in my list here, right? Dennis, there's no.
Yeah, 2/6, 2/19, and 2/21 are all outstanding.
Okay.
All the ones prior, people have.
Okay.
All of your minutes are outstanding.
What's that?
All of your minutes are outstanding. Oh, you meant like we don't have, I thought you were talking about how they were.
Yeah.
It's so great. Katie, can we, so I don't know if they're fine and maybe we wait till next meeting, but we talk about the timeline, because I think,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we're
Yeah.
already
Okay.
kind of mid-March, right? And
All right,
yes.
How about we add updated budget and timeline to the 6:45?
updated budget and timeline, okay,
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Alrighty. Wonderful. Any other amendments? No? All right, then can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I moved that we approve the agenda as amended.
second,
So we need to roll call. Ken?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Ellen? Or Linda?
aye,
Everyone-
Was that Linda?
That was Linda. Yeah.
Or was that?
And-
Aye. aye,
Thanks, Ellen. And Chair says aye, so thank you. All right, so that brings us to the minutes. I believe we have 3 sets to view. December 19th, January 9th, and January 30th. And thank you, Dennis, for
You don't have the 17th?
17th.
when I opened the 17th, mine said December 11th on them. Did I?
Oh, that's right. You talked about the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll mark that one off as
Talked about the
well.
library meeting.
So I will,
Yeah.
I have to fix that one.
So the 17th isn't there?
Yeah,
no, yeah,
and then we already determined that the February ones are not ready. So it's December 19th, January 9th, and January 30th. And Bonnie, you had said before the meeting started that you had a small edit to send to,
I emailed Dennis already,
okay.
just,
I include that. I did have you in the votes, but I didn't have you on the attendance list, so.
I don't know which format you use to create this, but that's kind of,
You like that or not?
that looks very nice. It's very professional looking, like it's more cohesive than this version. Not that it matters either way, but
Must have taken it off.
Oh, okay, I had time, I was playing with the, I downloaded, I got the graphic from somewhere.
that looks nice.
Do you like that?
yeah.
It's nice. I mean, it's not mandatory, but it looks nice.
I know, I saw that too, I'm like, oh.
No,
Right.
getting fancy now.
Yeah, well, see, you're gonna do that. Now you set the bar so high, nobody's ever gonna want to take it over from you.
And so, if we can get a motion, do we want to approve all 3 of them in one motion? Did everyone have a chance to read them? Review them?
I'll make a motion to approve those 3 sets of minutes.
Okay,
Second.
okay, second, all right, roll call vote.
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
All right, chair says aye, thank you. Before we move on from minutes, does anyone want to volunteer to take over, some minutes, starting with the February ones?
Oh, no, I'll do the February ones.
You'll do the February
Yeah,
ones,
yeah.
but maybe going forward
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah,
here.
yeah, whoever
Um,
wants to be clerk.
Well,
I had a brief conversation with Ellen earlier tonight,
Very brief.
very brief. I mean, I'll continue doing them, I'm not gonna, but it just would be nice to.
Well, I
No.
just wanted to be respectful,
Oh,
that
yeah.
we've been at this for over a year now, if people want to switch up. Cause the offices, give Dennis a break from the, minutes if you want.
Well,
to
as
take over.
clerk, you can volunteer someone for the following meeting
Yeah,
or
but I wouldn't
something.
wanna-
I
Or
can't,
that- or
I
that.
can't type, so.
Well, everyone just give that some thought, to see if we
I
can
took
give you
that.
some reprieve.
I'd be willing to do one once a month.
I can do it. ASDF, JKL.
To kind of break.
Yeah,
it
if you
up
guys
a little
wanted
bit.
to split them, because we tend to meet twice a month, if you guys each
Yeah.
wanted to do them once a month, that would be
Yeah.
half the work you're currently doing.
Very nice.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Well, that's John. John, what would it cost to have you do the minutes?
You see this proposal. You're supposed to be
A
doing
lot, a lot.
it. You're supposed to be doing it.
All right. Okay, so that brings us on to the discussion and approval of the OPM contract. Dan Van Schalkwyk is at the Finance Committee meeting tonight, and he will be here when he's done with that. So do we want to carry on without him? Do we want to wait for him? What is the sense of?
I think if we can wait. Yeah.
Wait, okay, so. Then let's skip ahead to the latest floor plans and renderings. Thank you, John and Dan. I thought I saw Dan Arts hop on, and then he probably thought we were on mute and he hopped back up again, but thank you for this latest set. I printed them for everyone to look at. John, did you want to go over some of those differences? And I'll see if I can pull that up and share.
I printed a zip kind of, you've got the announced email where it gave us a description of the interior changes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I think if you put the email covers it. I don't have it right in front of me.
Who's got the printer?
that's my one. Yeah,
Laser,
that's
right?
my printer. Okay, do you want to, just for the sake of the public record, then we can just read off. Do you want to read those off?
I thought John might want to open it up first and then we'll go. from there.
Well,
Yeah.
on the first floor, Dan and we wanted to make the arrangement getting from the lobby to the cafe, to the library area, a little bit more roomy. So we readjusted there's a box area for storage in the activity room. And we felt that this is more of a meeting room than a usual activity room. The rooms, and we took out the sink and the cabinets in that room because we have them upstairs in the other rooms. And this one seemed to be more appropriate for, more casual meetings, getting together. And it allowed us to get more room to get through, circulate in the open plan to the lounge and sitting area. That's the main change on that floor. If you go over, let me see, I don't know whether you can kind of get over to the other side of this floor. Yeah, there you go, a little bit farther. And then down a bit. And what we did there is, I think it was already covered, but we adjusted the outside storage area with the pantry to be leveled up. I think that was covered in the previous
Yes,
adjustment.
change.
Yeah. And that was about it on this floor. I think there was a little shift over by the cafe we moved around the coats to be more out on cafe side. We used to have it around the side there, where that little storage area is. You come in through the vestibule. That got adjusted too. Other than that, this floor stayed about the same. The next floor up, there were a little bit more changes were done up there.
John, looks like
yeah.
you made the kitchen a little bit bigger and the storage a little bit smaller on this latest change. So the
Ah.
storage, yeah, the kitchen, the storage went from,
I could talk about I could talk about the
There's
change.
Dan. Let's get Dan in here. He's much more aware than I am.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. I was having some technical issues. So these new plans that I sent out, I added some landscaping, made them a little bit more colorful, a little bit more pleasing to the eye. But architecturally wise, the kitchen, yes, that did get a little bit larger. I was able also to move the sprinkler room to give the pantry a little bit more space. Somewhere along in the pantry room, there will be like the hot water heater. So I just wanted to make sure I had enough room for that. But I gave like a nice basic layout for the kitchen. If you're coming in from the northern side, that's your dirty side coming down. Your cooking's out back, and you're coming out to your clean. The other change, major change, was between the cafe and the lounge. Before I had a much larger storage area for such a small room. I think it was like 55 square feet. It was just way too big. So I reduced that.
Yeah.
And by reducing that, I was able to kind of like open up that space so there's a little bit more of a better flow between the two spaces.
like the jogs and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we took out the sink and cabinets.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the exterior storage up by the front, I did reduce that in size a bit.
It's good.
Slide it down a bit. You can
yeah.
slide.
And so I reduced that in size, and it gave the cafe a little bit more extra room.
Yeah, I think we put our coats more accessible out.
Yep. So we have a coat up front there, and there's also now another coat right there with the water fountain as well.
So can I ask, the rendering there has about 20 people perhaps could sit in the cafe at once? Is that like that's intentional representation of 4-person table?
I think that'll get more developed as we work out the furniture plans.
Mhm.
Right now, it's really more symbolic, showing that there's seating in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And
All right.
and we might configure a couple of doubles against the wall that's over by the activity room, and maybe a little bit more room for another quad.
What about the idea of having benches installed in the wall? Have a couple of them have wall benches and 2 seats on the outside or something like that?
Where's that?
I mean, just a thought. In the cafe.
You're talking about built-in bench
Yeah,
seating
yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just a-
we're not big on that, only because it reduces your flexibility.
Yeah.
Movable furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
can,
It limits it.
yeah. But it's still really early. You know,
Yeah.
there's a
I'm just thinking
feasibility.
you can then get storage underneath the benches.
No.
We have a lot of storage in that area.
Yeah.
That where the sink is, there's an under-counter refrigerator and overhead cabinets.
Yeah. You have storage right in there.
Can I say something? I don't know how to raise my hand. It's Ellen.
Oh, raise your hand. Come on.
I don't know how to do it online.
On the bottom.
I am very opposed to not having a sink in the activity room because I think that eliminates the idea of using it for arts and crafts.
Well, we have 3 more activity rooms with sinks in them. They're upstairs. Lots of sinks, lots of cabinets. And
Yeah,
most,
but this is the only one downstairs.
Yeah, most arts and crafts are done upstairs where there's a lot more, it's messy and tends to be heavily um, um, attended by groups. And that this activity room's a bit on the small side. And actually when Dan and I discussed it, that's a $7,000 or $8,000 item. We weren't sure that was really going to be useful in that room. So that's why we took it out. But we're still, again, we're in the feasibility study. As we develop more, I think we can revisit that concern and look at how it's dealt with upstairs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it
We're
limits
not
our
dismissing it. We're not dismissing it.
flexibility. And one of the things when we went to visit other senior centers that I was so impressed with yours was the idea that there was a sink and storage in every room. And so
Yep, you're absolutely right. But we
now you
haven't,
started
this is an
taking them
extra,
out.
this is an extra activity room beyond what we normally have in our other centers. If you go upstairs, let's slide up for a minute and see what we have up there. And you'll see that we have 3 activity rooms up there with sinks and cabinets. And one can be a very large room or else can be 2 small ones. So we have actually 4 activity rooms in this design. And if you looked at, let's say, Wilbraham, you'll see that we don't have 4 of them.
Yeah, we had 3.
Yeah. So you still have sinks and options for up to 3 different activities involving crafts, wet crafts, that is. And you can certainly do quilting or what we call clean crafts in the downstairs room.
I got it.
Anyhow, again, we certainly can revisit this concern, Ellen. I don't want to feel that we're dismissing it. I just wanted to say
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm still very much in favor of having it, but it's a group decision, but
Yeah.
it's the only one on
Good
the
point.
first floor, which is one of the reasons I think it's important.
Well, what's the difference between the first and second floor?
Well,
Let's
if
move
you
on.
Yeah.
decide to center things downstairs and doing some activities,
Yeah, well, you can do all kinds of crafts in that room down there. They're just not wet crafts. There's a lot of different dry. Anyhow, again,
I think that's something we can
the next
definitely
stage,
come
the next
back
stage of
to.
design, we can certainly put it in as an option.
okay,
Absolutely. I don't think I'm dismissing it, Ellen. I'm just
okay.
giving the reason.
Also, we talked last time about the generator.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that going to be?
Outside.
Wait, so
Probably,
it's going to be on the first floor.
they're
No,
probably on the first floor. I would assume over by where the kitchen, the pantry area is kind of a little tucked
Well,
out of the way.
understand that the generator's on the site.
Mhm.
It's huge and it will be over in the service area outside.
Yeah.
And at this stage of the game, we're not locating it yet. We own it. We're getting it. We're just
Okay.
not. It's the next phase. That's what the next phase is all about.
All right.
Electricity.
Probably in that
It'll be
corner,
on the site.
maybe.
It'll be on the site.
It will be on the site.
Yeah. And it'll be over, it'll be out of sight because it's huge. These things are gigantic.
And you usually have fence around them as well, right? They're fenced.
Around, they won't need a fence around it.
I will bet it'll be located.
We'll have some
somewhere near
landscaping.
where the electricity's coming
It's gonna
in.
be on that side, probably.
We throw a couple bushes around it maybe, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
They're very, this is what we attenuate it for sound. When it runs, you will hardly know it's running.
Oh, good.
No,
It'll
that's good.
probably be about a 300, 400 kW generator and it'll be diesel.
Great.
Okay.
I do have one follow-up question. Roughly speaking, that exterior storage room that's down here,
Yep.
room 129.
Yep.
About
Yeah.
how big is that?
It's about 12 feet wide there, actually.
Okay.
It's a little deceiving. And
10 by 12.
yeah, it's like 12 feet wide. And then the depth of that's you're probably pushing about 20 feet or so, the depth of the kitchen. So
Oh, no, I meant the exterior one.
Yeah, the
The
exterior,
exterior one, yeah, that one's 12 wide by 10. Yeah,
10 by 12 roughly.
yeah.
And that's adjustable too. I mean, the storage area, we have quite a bit of storage for the
Pantries,
multi-purpose
you
room.
can move them right up.
You can see we have storage up by the stairs and we have storage down there, and that wall can
Yeah,
shift
that can wall.
depending upon what we want to do with it. So
Sure.
once we decide what we're going to put in it, in the next phase, we'll look at that closely.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Someone in the Council on Aging Board meeting had inquired about losing the equipment lending room and wanting to know our plan. And they had specifically asked how big that building was, that particular room 129 was. So thank you. I'll be able to report back now.
And I think previously there was an internal door leading to the external storage room.
Yeah, we left that out.
That's
And the
too
reason why is because it requires circulation. It really eliminates your storage in both rooms when you have circulation to that door. So if you put anything in there and you have a door and you want to go through it, you have to keep it out of the way. So your storage room for the MP room has a lot of chairs and tables in it. And your other room will be up to you. You might be wanting to put some of your outdoor furniture in there in the winter. But when you put in a door, you eliminate a lot of the storage. That's the problem.
Use that wall.
You couldn't use a slide.
Well, you don't see those in commercial work.
No, right.
So does that mean the only way to access it is from outside?
Yeah, it's exterior storage. It's the idea. It's access from the exterior. The large storage area is for the multi-purpose rooms, access from the interior. We have to have some exterior storage. There's lots of things you need to put out there.
Yeah.
And again, the next phase, we'll get into really, really close details. You'll get exactly what's in your kitchen and all that equipment, and you'll know what's going to be in the pantry for storage and shelving. You'll know what shelving is into your different storage rooms. We'll get down to the nitty-grit of how this all works.
John, I'm not sure what, it might have been Wilbraham, but the pantry, it has a sub panel in it for the kitchen as well, right? Electrical panel, as well
Yep.
as the hot water heater and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there's gonna be some limitations on what you can put in front of those panels and things like that. But the exterior storage, if the pantry was found to be too big, the exterior storage could be lengthened. Is what I'm
Oh, yeah.
getting.
Yeah.
Into
Yeah, you got lots of different options.
Yeah,
You could
plenty of
go
options.
into the
With the walls
multi-purpose room
lined up,
storage.
It's easy. It's
Yeah.
easy with the walls lined up like that.
Yeah,
Okay, we're good.
yeah, good point.
All right, and then. Let's see, do we want to look at,
I got a question on the second floor when it gets to.
oh, okay, we go.
And,
There we go.
and so just to kind of reiterate, you see the maximum capacity of the multi-purpose room is how many people?
Well, I don't know, what's the square footage there? I can't see it on this thing.
24, 36.
24. So you figure for a sit-down eating situation, 15 to 17 square feet per person. So you divide that by, let's say 17 to be generous about it. And for a lecture type arrangement, 10 to 12 square feet per person. So you can get up to 200 people for a lecture or a large gathering. And for dinner or luncheons, it's about 15 to 17 square feet per person. Because we want to allow allowances for walkers and wheelchairs, et cetera.
43.5.
Yes, I'm saying 150 since the beginning.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Did you have?
So the second floor? So the second floor, there were a few changes. I was able to increase the activity room 2. I pushed that wall out there, so that room is a little bit larger. And then the other change was going on over by the fitness. There's a water fountain there, and coat closet. I just wanted to show that in the fitness room, there's an area for stretching if people are on yoga balls or whatever. And these are just some equipment, but the equipment can be arranged around throughout the area. There's quite a bit of space. Just wanted to show like a little bit of a layout.
I wanted to be able to show that there's fitness equipment in there. Again, part of the FF&E package will develop that as to the type of equipment in terms of aerobic versus strength versus, well, it's actually strength or aerobic.
And I know that, when we were all first together, one of the topics was to whether or not there would be glass walls or how much of the walls would be glass as opposed to solids and.
Almost none of it in the fitness room anymore. It's just
There's a little side light there. Yeah.
and also limited over on the to fitness. Although I think right now we don't show side lights, but I highly recommend some side lights in the doors. But
we have a side light in activity room for fitness room has a little small one. We do have a little bit of side lighting that goes down into the multi-purpose room from the fitness room.
Yeah, overlook windows.
Yep, same thing with the activity room too. There's some overlook windows there.
Are those floor to ceiling windows?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Or you halfway up the stairs. They don't have any of the stairs anymore.
Just like in Wilbraham.
Oh.
So,
All right.
I got one.
You have a question?
So Dan,
Yep.
this is Ken.
I know.
So there's a roof system shown around the area of the kitchen and whatnot.
Yeah. That is all. That's just a sloped roof. If you look, I wish I didn't get a rendering of that corner, but that is just a sloped.
That's a flat roof.
It's a mainly flat roof with a little sloped asphalt shingles on the side there, just to kind of give it some
Bring
shape.
the scale down.
Yeah. If you go to, yeah, even that
There you
view's
can
not
see in
that
the back.
great.
No, go to the next one. That back over to the right side. No, go
Doesn't
back.
have that side of the building down.
Yeah, I really don't have a good view of that.
If you go back one, there are stop for there. Way over to the right side, you can see a little bit of that roof, slope roof coming down near where the storage room is.
That's the same slope as that main roof in the back. It's just kind of following it up a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
It scales it down. Otherwise, it looks really weird if you don't have
So
some kind of it.
It's
Yeah, and if-
flattened out. It's pretty much flattened out over the kitchen, or it's the same slope all the way? You're just showing in a different shade here.
Well, go back to the
Yeah, if you look at the plan,
the second floor plan.
the section
I
that's
got it.
kind of darker shaded, that's all sloped.
Yeah,
And the light spot's gonna be flat
Light spot's
Well,
flattened by the kitchen.
with a drain. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be all slope drained. Yeah.
In the lined areas that you see, that's the roof that goes up way up over the top of the two-story multi.
Exactly.
Yeah, that we got. Yeah. So, okay, so you're basically providing some protection over the exit doors on the first floor as well. with the
Correct.
Yes.
slope roof.
Yeah. So that if you're looking at that roof,
It
it's
covers
all
the walkway, basically.
nothing's going over into the walkway area. This is all covering that space down below. The only thing that's extending past the perimeter of the building is up by that storage room. You see that little bump out there? That's just an area covered by the egress door and the pantry door, just to have some protection. Other than that, all that stuff's over the footprint of the building.
Got it, okay, thank you.
And
So,
the concrete skirt that you have running around the walkway, I guess, or just the kind of,
Just a walkway, yeah.
yeah, and how wide is that? Like
5
4
feet.
6?
5.
5 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
it'll be at least 5.
ADA.
Yeah. And I was wondering, over the multi-purpose room, the roof there, the sloped roof,
Mhm.
it doesn't have any skylights or windows, or I thought that one of the advantages of orienting the building,
Yeah,
you know,
a little early in the game.
But yeah, we could, later
We're
in the
gonna have
game.
skylights up there. We just haven't.
we could
Okay.
put
This is
those
the
in, yeah.
feasibility study.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I just bring it up because I know that one of the it was, for me, a kind of a nice feature of what we saw in Andover, that they had these large windows with light pouring in.
Yeah, the
And they
solar
had
tubes, yeah.
automatic shades that could be, closed or opened, which kind of had made
Electric
it.
shades,
Electric.
remote control.
Yeah. It was a kind of nice, it just made for a real nice place to be.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same deal and same deal.
We'll
in
have this, we'll have
Wilbraham.
the same deal.
Wilbraham's the same way.
I got another question. I got a question, Dan, on the
Yep,
stairway system here. So on the second floor, where there's an arrowhead, that's going up to the third level, right?
correct.
And the
Where?
other stair.
The other,
No.
yeah, the other one, the one that you're seeing right
The
now.
one
with
over on the left.
No, the one you're seeing with the arrow, yes, is the one that's gonna go up to the attic. I'll draw in the arrow. Exactly, you're right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, then the other one, so it is
The other
kind
one's
of
going
a
down.
The
strange,
main stair is just 2 levels. The one on the
The-
far left is the one that goes to the 3rd floor.
Yeah. So right now it's just gonna be a straight shot down to the first floor. And then that other run would go up to the attic.
Got it.
okay, let's go back a second. The stairway that's straight down, next to the wall, outside wall.
Yep, right.
Is your egress stair.
Egress
Yeah.
there right out.
Yep.
And the other stair is access to the upper level,
Yes.
Yeah.
the inside level. I think John had it backwards, that's why.
What? I don't do
Yes.
anything backwards.
You had it backwards. So
Yeah.
if you look, when we go up to the third level where we have all the mechanical equipment, we're gonna go up that set of stairs there.
Correct.
And then there'll be a
To the right
landing.
or the left? How's that?
The one
So
without
landing
the
at the
arrow. The one with the arrow is for the attic. Without the arrow is the one going
Straight
downstairs.
down.
Is egress.
Yes.
I'll correct that.
Okay, all right. And I noticed that you squeezed a little, on the first floor, you squeezed a little janitor's closet underneath the stairs.
Yeah, it's stuck under the stairs. Yeah. Might as well just use the space.
Well, it's a good idea, because you need them everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll use every square inch we give you.
Yep.
For sure.
I'm good with this.
So all told, it looks like you took off maybe, I don't know, 700, 800 square feet, somewhere in there, smaller than previous.
This is the same square footage that we talked about last meeting. Nothing has changed. It was just stuff that's inside the
Right, but
building.
You're talking about from the previous.
Yeah, but from the one that, because.
From the
so-
one before that?
Yeah.
Yeah, 14,
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
that is somewhat for public consumption, that is. We are now able to say that the building was,
Smaller.
14.4, and we have worked diligently to try to decrease it, and. We're now around 13.7. Which I think is a positive thing for the folks who are paying attention.
And that's gross. We have to keep saying gross all the time, not net. Because the net, it gets smaller. You take out,
So the walls.
yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I think it looks wonderful.
Yeah.
I like the original.
Well, I like the original one too.
Bigger is always better.
And I like the, your choice of landscaping, the trees in full bloom, very, very nice. I noticed there's a sugar maple there in the back and.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Where's the snow pile? Is there a snow pile?
Snow removal is a big deal.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Dan and John, for getting us to the next level. It's wonderful for everyone to be able to see now what it looks like. Just a little bit smaller and, without the walking roof and walking path around it, to really demonstrate the impact of, we went out for public input on almost a dozen sessions. We met with the select board, FinCom and capital planning. We've responded to all of those things with a new set of designs that have brought square footage, the features, And, oh, and we squared off the back of the building. You guys squared off the back of the building, you know, several steps have been taken to be responsive, you know, to those comments. So good. I think we haven't lost anything that is, you know, the essence of the building in the process. So that is great.
I got a quick question regarding, I know this is deep, John, but do you typically have a gutter system along the front or something like that to shed this water off the high roof?
The whole works has got gutters all the way around the building.
Okay, thanks.
No.
All right,
Water.
so,
We have to control water on site. It's actually a state regulation. We have to put our water into either a retaining pond, which I think we'll be doing here versus chambers. Often in more urban environments, we have chambers underneath the parking lot. This soil is very absorptive. I don't know did we do any perk
We did
tests?
all the testing, yeah, all the deep hole testing and borings as well.
Yeah, so the perk tests, I think, came out very positive. So no matter what we do maintain the water on site. Actually, I think the rules are 80%, but I think we'll be 100% on site.
See, that's the planning water, it's easy, pretty easy.
all right. So while we're waiting for Dan, and I'm not sure how long he'll be, we can go down to the updated budget and timeline or skip right to legislative earmarks. I think the budget and timeline is probably the most relevant one to getting ready for the OPM conversation. So we want to go over that, or I'm sorry, anything else on the latest plans? No. All right, great.
So. Have
So,
you spoken to John Earl about the vortex stuff, the changes, if he's just gonna hear it now?
no.
Okay.
Okay. So, because that's all so recent today. So in front of you and pull up. All right, can you guys see the budget spreadsheet now? Those that are sharing? That on the screen share correctly? Oops.
I see the floor plan only right now.
Oh, okay, hang on. Okay. There we go. All right. So, this is the document labeled Senior Center Expenditures as of 2/20. So this shows that our project had 3 sources of funding. The ones in blue are the ARPA funds. The ones in sort of red are the Housing Choice Grant. And the ones in green are the UDAG funds that were left over from the previous attempt to build a senior center. So, the most important thing here is it totaled $375,000. And then when you come down to, and it shows what we billed to each version, so each one so far. But the thing to really focus on today is that we have 259,000 of that 375 remaining. And in the purple area, I have laid out what I think are our anticipated expenditures, which bring us down to 0. So that's what this purple amount is doing, is adding us up or down, whichever way your brain chooses to process that, to our funds. All but 14,998 of them have to be spent by June 30th. That's the end of the Housing Choice Grant. So the things that we have anticipated outstanding are, I have left in the $10,000 that Catlin Architecture has not yet billed us for. We have this remaining 5978 has now been invoiced. So that is going to move up into another section. But that was the final amount due to them. There's National Grid has agreed to do the engineering and design fees for no charge. we estimated about $15,000 in MIPA related permitting fees. We had just sort of tossed in the number of 35,000 for OPM fees for the schematic design as an estimate. The next number is the amount in the contract for schematic design with Catlin. We have nothing in for a traffic study, because we said if we thought we needed it, we might be able to get MRPC to fund it, but we can look at that later. There was a small invoice for the publishing of the OPM RFQ, so that's that has actually been invoiced as well. And then the balance of that, which is 21,899.10, we had left for any additional site work, knowing that only 14,000 of that would be available after June 30th. So what I'm proposing, and this is what I sent to you guys, so I wanted to present it this way. You know, the 35,000 is not going to cover the OPM fees. They are higher than that. And so, and I handed out, we just got the Vertex contract. And thanks to Dan for going back and forth with them a couple of times to get to something that was going to be workable. So in talking about how to bridge that gap, I think that we could probably remove or not earmark 15,000 for the MIPA related permit fees, because they don't want to see our application. We can't submit our application until schematic design is done. And so it's not likely that we're going to be ready to spend that 15,000 before our grant funds run out. We kind of hoped we would, but it's not likely we will.
So can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
So it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why they need the whole schematic design.
No, it's just a site plan. They need a site plan.
Right, because they want to know what is going to be disrupted, right, in the area, right?
It's a little more detailed than that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So is there a way to get that instead of, right, is some kind of intermediate
No,
schematic design?
So we can't, so,
we've told them that already. We showed them that. We showed them highlighted the area, the whole bit. That was
but,
not satisfactory. They need to know for sure.
so,
The reason for that is they're gonna turn around and say, how can you mitigate this? Can you put a turtle's nesting area here? Can you do that? So that they're not gonna guess. They wanna see it.
so the OPM fees for schematic design,
We're trying to finish our question.
no,
Well, no, okay, so wait, so if you're saying that, let's go back to the very beginning, right? There was no turtle habitat found. So if they're asking us.
That's what our consultant said. But that may not have been their response.
But due to
We
the
haven't
fact
even
that we have
divulged it.
used state funds and that we are disrupting more than 2 acres, we have to go through this process regardless.
Yep.
So it kind of doesn't matter whether it was,
It's kind of a moot point, right?
yeah, our
Yeah, but there's even another twist to it.
our consultants basically said, you know, it wasn't really that great of a habitat, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being broadly generalizing.
Yeah, you're right.
So if we hadn't triggered those other 2 things,
Mm.
then perhaps it would be different. But because we are using a state housing choice grant, which is still wonderful because the town has not had to pay out any local funds for this
Right,
work
right,
thus
right.
far. We do still have to do the review.
There's another twist to it. I don't even think we've mentioned it at any of our meetings, but we'll bring it up right now. You understand that the town of Ayer is an environmental justice community? You know what that term means?
Enlighten me.
Because of the history of certain cities and towns in the in the Commonwealth and their location to nearby environmental issues,
Mhm.
portions of these towns have been mapped. And it turns out that area is within that map, goes right by Dave's house, down West Main Street and out. So since we're part of an environmental justice community, our environmental notification form, the ENF, is more robust. Town has to be informed in a whole different pattern, so there's much more in the approval. So we will probably. I talked about that, looked at all the maps. There's no way getting around it. So because we are an environmental justice community, On the good side, we do get grants, we do get other
Right.
things that
I
happen.
was just
So there's
saying,
pros
You know,
and
there's
yes.
pros and
Yeah.
being an
cons.
environmental
Yes.
justice
So
community does.
they
give you
can't
bonus.
Overcome that requirement that says that's another level of state. So we have several levels of the requirement.
Okay, okay,
And then they came back and they said that, this is only in an email, in a discussion that happened between Dan and the state. It wasn't a formal meeting, but it wasn't formal enough. They're concerned with the planting turtle on the road. They think that, you know, it's just, it goes into more details.
yeah,
We need to be aware that, so the long and the short of it is that we need a pretty good set of documents for them, because they wouldn't take their highlighting the lot and saying, there you are.
Yeah.
But they don't, I
Yeah.
guess to your earlier point that they need the plot plan or the
Site
site,
plan.
they need, but not the schematic design.
Well, it's
That's the
part of
site
our schematic
plans.
design process that he hires the site plan. He hires the site engineer, so it's under John's purview, either way.
So we can't get the site plan until the schematic design is.
When we let John go, we can ask John if he can produce, his agent can produce the site plan earlier.
So the point being that.
Well, you would normally, you would normally, let me help out a little bit here. Normally, we wouldn't be getting into this kind of thing till design development. And you need to get funding. You're not going to move ahead with any further phases if you don't get passed at town meeting. And when town meeting passes, it should cover a lot of this stuff. And by the way, at this schematic level, we should have a pretty accurate site plan that
Yeah.
Ken's looking for that could be used. But I don't think you need to go for that permit until you find out whether you're going to go ahead with this project. And you won't know that until town meeting, right?
Which permit?
Well, he's talking about there's notification requirements, and it may work out that way, but there's another twist to it too that I may as well bring up tonight. Because we're designing a water line down the street, they're also evaluating the work on the road as part of our permit. Not just the site. So there's a set of drawings that they need to see to say, this is positively where your disturbance is. This
Yeah.
has to
And
be
this
done.
is all MEPA.
Yeah.
This is from the state.
Massachusetts Environmental Protection,
It's MEPA and,
MESA. Yeah.
those of them, yeah. It might actually be more MESA, which is the Environmental Species Act, Massachusetts Environmental Species Act, or the other one is the Environmental Protection Agency or something like that. But in any event, Dan has been talking to them, and they basically told us we need some better documents to really evaluate. So next week, when political discussion could occur, when a senator comes into this building, might be the appropriate time to talk about how these agencies can work on our behalf as a betterment to the community. And decide if we could interject some thought into the process and have a logical discussion about what we're trying to do here for the betterment of the community.
Well,
That's my thought.
no,
I may be wrong,
I'd,
could be wrong,
I'd be happy to have that conversation.
but so, but for now, the answer is, and Dan can verify it when he gets on, but the answer basically now is show us some drawings,
Mhm.
don't just tell us where it is and
yeah,
showing us a sketch type thing.
yeah, yeah.
With all that in mind,
Move
the,
on.
but the end result of that is that I don't think it's gonna be feasible for us to be, I don't think there's any need for us to hold back that 15,000.
Right.
Because we're not anywhere near it until the end of schematic design,
Mhm.
which is gonna butt right up against June 30th anyway.
Mhm.
And that's at the short side, and John is saying, oh, it might even be later, it might even be in final design when you want to submit it. So I was thinking there's really no reason to hold back this 15,000 here. We can allocate that towards the OPM fee.
Mhm.
And this 21,889 needs to go into the OPM fee as well.
Mhm.
So
So you're basically taking the 14,998.20 above.
Yeah.
And whatever the balance is between 14,900 and 20, that's like
Well,
six. right?
no, that 21,899. It
It's made
includes the 14.
Right,
Yeah.
so you've taken that and moved it into this, is what I'm saying.
Right,
And then
yeah.
whatever the balance was, another 6 or 7,000, gets you to 22,000.
I'll give you
Yes, it goes
something.
basically roughly 15,000 to roughly
Right.
22.
And you've taken out completely the money for the, town meeting and the notices and all the rest of it.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think we're not there yet. Like, we're not gonna be there by June 30th either, right? So,
Right.
so there was our initial timeline, and then now we're looking at more of a fall timeline. So we
Yep.
want to spend all of this money that we possibly can before June 30th, or we just lose it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and we have to bring on the OPM. We need more money than what we initially, we were kind of trying to cover all our bases with this last version. Now we're kind of honing in this budget to make sure it's as specific for what we need right now before the
Makes sense.
funds run out. So, so all of those amounts together do cover, and, hopefully Dan will join us soon, but, I just received it, the final version this afternoon of the Vertex, letter. Dan had gone back and forth, with them a couple of times, to get a little bit more detail on the scope of work and the actual hours that they would be spending. So, you can see the letter, and then, the fee breakdown done by, weekly and monthly hours by each of the types of staff members. So,
And just so Brian, he was at the,
They were both there, two Brian's.
Brian's.
which Brian is Jarvis, the older one who had blown up in
Brian
Florida.
Jarvis is the senior. man.
see,
One of them come up.
Yeah, we've worked with Brian. He's an excellent OPM. Very, very focused, very detailed. And I don't think we'll see him a lot in the field. I don't know now that he's so senior. At the time we dealt with him, he was the field guy.
Yeah, the other gentleman's name is Brian.
Yeah.
I brought it with someone.
So what is the amount that they're asking from Vertex?
so, it comes up to 69,927.
Is that what we were expecting? Is that, I thought is that high?
That's half the price. But where they started.
So, yeah, so where they started was about 120 something thousand, and that included, March through June for schematic design. And
Would they
then
do our
also,
drawing? Are they gonna do our drawings for us, right? In that fee?
Exactly.
yeah.
I won't have to draw anything. Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
The price just went down to 50,000 now.
That
So,
seems
and
very
then,
high.
Oh, God.
I mean, you can
OPM,
see,
yeah, they can be very expensive. I had one OPM that was higher than my whole architectural fee for the project. And I said to him, you have no liability. You're not at risk. You don't have to do any of the drawings. You just have to show up and take notes. And their fee was higher than the architects. I mean, I don't, it's a great deal for them. These,
And how did you
I mean-
feel about that, John?
I wasn't very happy.
It's saying, it's saying.
But I mean, my
Uh,
concern is this is a pretty small part of this project. They still are gonna have to do, well, they're gonna do town meeting should be included. But then, is it included, the town meeting?
no, so the original estimate for schematic design was for 120,000. And it included, so if you look at that, well, sorry, Ellen, you don't have that in front of you. Hang on, let me try and pull that up. Where pull that up?
Okay.
I know.
They
I was
almost
trying-
have to do, quite honestly, they almost have to do nothing in schematic design. Their primary job is doing construction. They oversee and usually run the meetings on a weekly basis. And there's a lot of input there, and a lot of work, but schematic design, they hardly even have to show up. I mean, I don't know. What did they say
Yeah.
they're gonna do for schematic design?
I can clarify it a little bit if you want. So
Yeah.
there's an important feature here that their base price is 51,927 after Dan Van Skelk worked with them and deleted a lot of hours, which they estimated in their original price.
Right, that's
So
what
we
I'm trying to-
determined by looking at the original price that we thought there was an excessive amount of hours for the people involved in the project. So Dan went back and said, look, we need to break down the hours separately. So now we're down to only a 10-hour week project manager and a couple of hours here and there for the senior director. And then they have a couple things in here for the accounting and administration and whatnot. So we've managed to get the hourly rate, excuse me, the number of hours down. We have no option in changing their cost per hour. So that portion of the work ended up at, as you see on the third sheet, at 51,927. Now, here's the important part, John. They have included the second professional estimator.
Yeah,
To-
and I don't think you need them. You really
So
don't.
that was going to be my question, but the committee may feel uncomfortable with that because a big part of what we're doing is to try to, double check the costs of things. So I thought you might say that, and you're using, what we found out in the process with the OPMs, in case we hadn't told you, was that it looks like there's only two of these professionals, Fogarty and PCM, I think it is.
Peter Bradley.
Peter Bradley. So there's
Yeah,
only
and
like two.
They're
two
buddies. They do exactly the same thing, each guy. They kind of come, I've been through this. They come together. Oh, you got 200,000 here. I have 150, but then you have 75 over there and I've got 25 here. And they go,
Sounds like-
okay, fine. Then they balance it out. And you pay a lot of money for the two
That's it.
professionals who know what they're doing. And I've never missed with Fogarty on a bid.
That's 18,000.
Yeah, 18,000, yeah.
So
That's
he's
a lot
carrying
of-
18, he's carrying 18,000 for those meetings and that estimate.
Yeah, that's,
So we have a chance.
it's your choice. I don't think it's necessary. Both groups are very professional. They have their thumb on the market, and sometimes they calculate things slightly different. And then they sit down and say, oh, this is what I carried. And all it is that they're both getting paid to do the same thing. And I can tell you, Peter Timothy at Fogarty, I used to work with Al, and he's retired years ago. Peter's been running the show. I've been working with him for 40 years. And only once did we have a bid come in that was way off. And that was during a really crazy time, probably about 28 years ago. They're both very accurate. And why we double them up, I don't know. I think it's another way for somebody to make a few bucks on the side. That's just my.
Can
My-
I say something? It's Ellen.
Yeah.
I do think we need the second estimator. All of them were expecting that, and it shows that we are checking everything and dotting the Ts and
Yeah, every
dotting the
single,
Is and crossing
every,
the Ts.
every single OPM will tell you, we'll provide a estimate. And I've been through 3 of them recently, and they're both doing the same thing. And they
Yeah.
both come up with the same number. And by the way, the numbers are very close to what we give you.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
I
very far off.
But
I
I'm
Want to spend the
concerned.
money, please do. I'm not going to get in the middle of that.
I feel that this is kind of a red flag. This seems like very high fees that they're charging for the easiest and shortest part of this project. And I'm concerned about how much are they going to charge us for the rest of it? And I first of all, I think we should have some pushback to them so they don't think, oh, okay, well, they're just going to take, I mean, obviously, Dan has been doing that with them.
You must have
Right,
a fee for the whole project. Don't you have a fee for the whole project?
Not yet, no.
Not.
They don't have the whole project.
What?
They're not bidding the whole project. We're only bidding this piece right now.
Well, I'd carried in our
Well,
estimate 475,000 for the whole thing with the clerk.
We know-
And that's probably a bit shy because they always want more. But they're not doing, they have no liability. They're not doing all the engineering. They're not hiring all the consultants. They're not, they're like a monitor that you're paying to sit with you. And they're
it's-
good.
it's state
They're good, by
mandated.
the way.
That
What?
we
I
don't really
was
have a
school.
choice
Yeah.
whether or not to do it. So
Oh,
let me
yeah, you
just
got to
take a
have
step-
them by
Let me
law.
take a step back for a second, because while I was looking for the file, just to give the background that Dan probably would have given. So the first proposal that came to us was for 120,000. That included the work of the schematic design phase that would have taken us through the end of our funding, June 30th. And that's the area in pink or red, whatever you want to call that on all of these grids. And then it included a second set of fees that are the green ones for July through November for the town meeting prep. So given that our funding runs out at our current funding, doesn't mean we can't find more funding, but our current funding runs out in the end of June. And the amount of money that we have is for what they were proposing through the end of June. Dan went back to them and said, look, this is what we have to work with right now. Let's limit as you said, the total number of hours to make sure we're hitting this number, and let's not worry about this leading up to town meeting. Because I know that we asked a lot of questions during the interview about how they were going to help us get ready for town meeting. But that piece alone was $39,000. So, when I look at it, I think, well, we have done okay with some of our public outreach, our materials, the presentations. I talked to Max in IT and I said, 39,000, what do you think about that for, and it's their time too. I'm not trying to, but for the largely what is public outreach piece, and it really only said coming to one, maybe two meetings for public outreach forums. That just seemed like a lot of money. And instead of spending a lot of time really hashing over if or where the value is in that part when we don't even have funding for it, that we could narrow this proposal to what we really do need right now before our funding runs out and what we have money for. So inevitably, we're going to have to go back to the select board or to the second round of housing choice funding to get us from July 1 till the town meeting date. So for the sake of this discussion, I think we should focus on really this smaller piece of it, just to put that in the broader context.
I think with the point that John brought up, I've been thinking about it too. I talked to Dan Van Skelwick about this a little bit too, because we've been working on this stuff, and Dan made a very valid point, and you'd be familiar with this because we all watch town meetings and whatnot. And inevitably, the select board approved contracts from the DPW with only a price from a consultant, one. It's fascinating that this process, I just gave out a job for $4,700,000 the other day for West Main Street, MIU, the bridge and stuff. They just signed it. So he said to me on the phone, Dan, yeah, I only use one estimator when I go through, and time after time, those things get signed. So there is some validity in what John said. There's a risk, but there's definitely precedent that one estimator, one qualified estimator, and there's only two in the state. So we're not saying, how we find an estimator. There seems to only be two of them. There's Peter Bradley and Fogarty.
They're going back to school.
So, and the other thing that John, from my experience at being an estimator, the most important part of a good estimate is to cover every single piece of the work. Then the variation changes. So if you have every single part of the HVAC, inevitably one little piece will be higher, one piece will be lower, but the totals will kind of match up. It's when you miss something completely that your estimate is no good. So these professionals have schedules of values that include every single one of these items already. And they fill in a blank and they come up with a total. So, but there's no question. I struggle with the $18,000. I mean, that's what they're carrying. They told us what it is. How much time does it take to do an estimate?
Wouldn't think, well,
Right now, there's a lot of software they use now. They can
Yeah.
take our digital drawings, put it into their software package, and it calculates it out for them. I mean, it's so much easier than it used to be. But anyhow, that's just my feeling is I respect what Ellen is saying. But I can tell you right now, if you can avoid paying the 18,000 bucks, because I'm paying an equal amount
Exactly.
more for the same thing. And this software now is so accurate that if it's not in the drawings, it's not going to be an estimate. But if it's in the drawings, both guys are going to have the estimate. They might have slightly different figures on cubic feet and square footages, an amount of wiring or something, but they both are current they're every day they have projects going out to bid and they get the results back and they look at the results and they put it into their software. So they're very, very up to date with their things and they're both very busy. And they're often, it's almost like, what is it? The two lawyers are arguing in court against each other and for lunch they play golf together. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys are together all the time.
If worst comes to worst, we can always pick them up in phase two when we get to the next, so we don't necessarily. have to-
absolutely. Yeah, right now, we need a number to go to town meeting.
Come up
We need,
later,
yeah,
save the $18,000 now.
Well, he's proposed, would have to deduct this proposal then by the 18,000 to the new number if we chose to take
51
that
to
risk.
51 something.
Right. I was just going
So
through the
we're-
original proposal. And how he
You're
broke it.
proposing going with
One estimate.
I just want to go back to his
The
original.
base.
Dan?
We're having a conversation about it.
Hey, Dan.
We can.
So for Ellen's purposes, to break this down, the first four, in the original proposal, each month, the first 4 months in the original proposal was 16,337 a month for 4 months to get us to the end of June. And then 7714 a month for 5 months to take us to November. The new proposal, with Dan's help, is now 12,982 a month versus 16,337 a month. So they've deleted a number of hours based on the fact that we thought they had too many hours in there. So we have negotiated it down to a smaller number of hours. And just a 4 month, a commitment at this point in time. And then a separate $18,000 number for the estimator.
So Dan, just to bring you up to speed, Ellen had raised, we're going over the Vertex contract and
We waited for you for that.
discussing,
We
so
just
the
got it.
question became the 18th, 51,927 plus the 18 for the estimator gets us to the 69 number.
Yeah,
And Ellen so the question became, for John, do we really need the second estimate? Or are we being duplicative for no particularly good reason other than our insecurity? Perhaps, Ellen, I don't want to speak for Ellen. Ellen, if you wanted to kind of raise her. She's muted, I think. But so Ellen was concerned that we do in fact need a second estimate in order to double check the first estimator. But whether or not that's,
Mr. Catlin might not agree with that.
right, he might not.
Yeah, but
maybe-
what I think, personally, I like the idea of double checking, but I also think that the Vertex is gonna insist on a second one. But,
excuse me, they have no choice in this.
Oh,
You either tell them what you want or you don't. They have
They
no
priced
say
it
in it.
separately.
yeah, but I still
They
like
have
the
to
idea
say
of
it.
double checking.
Well, you can double check at the next level. We're gonna have an estimate at schematic design. We're gonna have an
That's
estimate at design development. We're
Keeps
gonna have
going.
an estimate at 80% CDs, and then you go to bid. So there's gonna be a whole group of estimates, feeling the pulse of where the market is and how the drawings are developing. At this stage of the game, $18,000 for a schematic design estimate on top of what we're doing is really duplicating. It's just, but later on, you may want to engage them in that, and they can take what we have for our estimate, and their estimator can look at it and for a lot less money, review what our estimator is doing. What they're offering to do is to do a complete from scratch estimate with their own takeoffs. And at schematic design, there's almost nothing other than schematic design information. The HVAC system will not be fully designed. The electrical system won't be fully designed. The size of the generator won't be determined yet. I mean, it's just really, our estimator will do a great job at schematic design. And then after that, if you want to revisit it, I certainly would not oppose it. But I think if you're tight on money, this is one area that you just don't need it. But that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Take
So,
it as you wish.
John, can I ask,
Sure.
in your experience, what has been you know, the variability between your guys' final schematic design estimate and the estimate that comes in for buildable plans? Like, are they off by 3%, 5%, 1%?
100%.
We generally, because we use add alternates in the process to allow for flexibility in the numbers, because in the end, no matter what the estimators say, the market tells you what it is. So you never know where the market is at the very last minute. That's why we try and get one at around 80%. 90% is too close to the deadline, but at 80%, you know where the market is. You're going to be bidding within, probably 4 weeks or 5 weeks. Our experience has been, I'll give you an idea, in Wilbraham, none of the add alternates were able to be taken. The estimate without the add alternates came in almost on budget. Then what happened was they really wanted the add alternates. They had a lot of extra money, and the two low bidders pulled out because they felt they were a little bit off. They're willing to rebid it, and they're going to go up maybe $500,000, $750,000. But in the end, the town ended up throwing maybe $3 million at it, which they didn't need to do, but that was their choice. And they decided to buy all the add alternates. Add alternates are designed to be done anywhere down the road. This year, next year, the year after, they can all be added in because they're all the infrastructure for them are in place. So when you bid these things, my experience has been we usually get half the add alternates. We don't get them all. In the end, because we have so much of a contingency, they all end up buying in the rest of the add alternates at the end. And I think our last 4 projects, all the add alternates in the end were used. They just had money left over at the end of the project because we carry a contingency. And our experience with contingencies is less than 1%, and we carry anywhere between 4 and 7% in contingency. So there's usually a pretty good chunk of money left at the end.
So Ellen, given that this estimate or these estimates that we would be getting now as part of schematic design are not in fact the final estimate that is conclusive in terms of going to town meeting,
Could be.
does that mean
It's possible.
that it is conclusive?
It's possible to go to town meeting with it.
No, I know, but do we want to do that, or are we going to wait for the estimate from the buildable plans to go to town?
Or do we get the
We won't
80%?
get there.
No, you will never, you're going to go to town meeting with schematics.
With schematic design.
Schematic.
So the schematic
And
design.
in a schematic design estimate.
That's what we are.
So do we want to?
I have a suggestion. So I have a suggestion to the chairman and the board. It seems like we have a little bit of safety net with the second estimate, potentially. Can we award the contract? Do you think they'll take the contracts for the 51,000 plus to the end of June? Holding back the 18 in the event that we find when we get John's estimate that we need to dig deeper. That we feel, if we feel so confident with Fogarty's estimate as we go through schematic, and it's a strong enough position that we could take it to a town meeting, we may not need the second estimate. If we feel weak, we can go back and say to the select board or whatever, try to hold on to that money. And then get the second estimator.
What determines feeling weak versus feeling strong?
If his estimate is like off the wall.
Is it market? Is it gonna be market driven or?
It's gonna be.
They're always market driven. And let me,
But that's not your fault, right? I mean,
No, but
it's
then
nobody.
you're just making my point. Why would we have to?
Yeah, why? Why do we need that?
In
So
fact,
you're saying
quite,
you don't need to.
I think that we don't need it at schematic design.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's why I say keep it in reserve.
He knows the market at that point in time.
yes, they both know the
100%,
market.
just another twist on it.
Right.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Thanks for the look
We're
at
trying to
safety
save
net.
money, saving $18,000 now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe add it back in when we get to 80% design and then
Right.
say, okay, well, now we wanna have somebody come in and.
By then
You know
we'll have town meeting money by then.
Right.
So we'll have plenty of money.
Actually, out of the last 5 projects we've done, 2 of them, we went to town meeting with the estimate that I did myself without my estimator because we didn't get that far in the design. And in the end up, they approved that money, but it was a very conservative number, which I believe we have right now. But our estimator at this stage of the game is going to give us a very specific number based on the drawings above and beyond what I knew at the time when I put my estimate together.
John, can I ask,
Yeah.
I want to get Dan's.
oh yeah, John, can I ask, with the current, shall we say, turmoil in terms of tariffs and da.
No turn.
Does that,
Everything's gone.
but does that change the contingency? That is the current uncertain environment change your level of comfort with the contingency you've given us, or would you kind of feel better about increasing that?
As
Or,
the more complicated the environment is, the better the number is for us. The contractors are going to be hungry and they're going to be after this. Right now, they're very hungry. And
We want to slow down.
yeah,
no, I know, but in terms of the contingency that's built in, the slow, no,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We're all good.
our contingency is always the same. We lowered it a little bit here just because the market is looking a lot more favorable for bidding. I talked to my cost estimator. Now, let me see, it's probably 3 weeks ago. And he said the numbers are coming in much better than they expected. Now, whether that continues, I don't know. But there's
Yeah,
there's not a lot of projects that are going out at this scale.
Dan, what do you think? You have any?
Yeah, so I jotted down a couple of notes. So really, the OPM, when we hired them, we do have in there, they're gonna critique the designer's plans and cost estimates for cost. So, at some level, maybe we wanna consider that, creating a whole nother cost estimate from scratch to compare one. I don't see that reasonably needing to be done at this point, schematic design, as long as, our goal is to have a comfortable number to go to town meeting with and feel good with it. So I think, there needs to be some level of review potentially. And I like Ken's idea of, let's approve the OPM's time and then, a cost estimator, we could authorize that at a later date. It'd have to be authorized by us in writing or, in writing. And potentially we could talk to the OPM about, is there a different scope we can use? As opposed to doing a full-blown cost estimate this early. It makes sense. When I do a water main project, I mean, they're not as large in number, but we usually just have one cost estimate. We use that. We add our contingencies. We go get our funds for it and go about the project. Mass Works, the $3 million project down the street, for example. So one cost estimate is probably all you need. You can scrutinize that one and changes there. But that's kind of my thought. I like Ken's kind of idea.
Yeah, but I like your explanation better than mine, because we're all gonna look at that estimate, including me, in a very deep way.
Yeah,
So you and I and the OPM and the committee will be looking deeply at Fogarty's estimate at the end of the schematic design. We're gonna go through it step by step.
right.
So how much extra would we pay for another estimator to do that?
Yeah.
John, do you typically have like a reconciliation meeting at schematic level, or is that like later on when you're doing your final cost estimate, one estimator for the town, one for the architect, and then they kind of meet together and go, why'd you assume this? Why'd you assume that?
Well, they do that we've only done that most of the time. Everybody runs with the estimate we give them. However, which town was it?
Well,
In Long Meadow, we had PMA and Fogarty sit down and go together. And they ended up with the same number. No, I mean, Fogarty's number didn't change. Everybody felt good because they all agreed. Now, I'm not a big fan of an early estimate from a second estimator at this stage. I'd rather have somebody in a design development maybe take Fogarty's numbers and just check them because they're all takeoff numbers. So, and Ken's seen this because I sent him one of them. They get the amount of, let's say, how many cubic yards of concrete, and they're carrying, let's say, in place $65 a yard. Now, the other estimator might say, well, it's really $70 a yard, but we think it's less yardage, So that's what they do. Let Fogarty do all the grunt work because I'm paying him to do that. In the end, his fee is going to be about $80,000 for this project, start to finish. And he will have these things all laid out. And Ken's already seen an example of what he does. And PMA, is it PMA or PM?
Vertex?
No, the other estimator. I can't remember. Yeah, they do exactly the same thing. They have the same software.
Peter.
Yeah. Yeah, they look at the same drawings and they do the takeoffs. Sometimes somebody, because it's also, in the old days, they used to take a little measure thing and they go around measuring everything by hand. Now they don't do that. They take the digital drawings, they run it through a software, and it calculates it all out for them. It's called BIM, BIM. And so it's a lot less prone to major errors. And I've never had a problem with Fogarty or nor the other fellow who've done some reconciliation, but it all comes out. I think it's too early to spend a lot of money to have somebody muck around with the drawings until we get into design development. And you get your funding from town meeting. And then if you want to spend some money on those guys, then I would not fight it.
I have one more comment on a positive side.
Yeah.
This is a compliment to John, which is going to be rare.
Uh-oh. No, I'm muting.
Because of the fact we chose an architect whose buildings are similar to what we're building now. The estimator in all probability has a pretty good idea of the basic fundamental components of this building already. So he's not starting from scratch with a brand new design, having a look at every single element of the building. Pretty much knows how many, the floor coverings that are involved, the wall finishes, the lighting systems. So there's already a good background of information.
Hey, Ken, could you negotiate with my cost estimator?
Absolutely.
And explain that to him? Yeah, I'll call you up when I'm talking.
As a committee,
That's right.
Because he-
as a committee, that
He
is an
doesn't
advantage
have to
for us as a
bring
committee in the estimator. We're not asking a person to look at a brand new design from scratch. There is some basis for the design already that helps the estimator get to it. So
Yeah.
we have a push.
Yeah, good point.
So I guess the options here are for us to authorize to approve an amended Vertex contract for the 51,927. Or as it is presented for the 69,927. But I do think we need to. I would urge this group to go ahead and vote on something, to approve something this evening, unless it seems like people are comfortable with Vertex. And it's just a matter of which part of it we're going forward with, because we really do need to keep this process moving forward so that we can get done the schematic design phase by June 30th. And
Award that to John. Yeah.
yeah,
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a motion to, and I'm not exactly sure on the wording, to approve a contract with Vertex Corporation for 51,927 with the remaining 18. That is, I'm trying,
OPM base fee,
what's that?
OPM base
The
fee.
OPM base fee of 51,927. And we'll kind of look at the
Future of it.
potential cost estimate of $18,000 further on in the process. And I mean, for me, the discussion that made it dispositive for me was that further along in the process, if we need to confirm the numbers or if the estimate seems to be going off the rails, we would then be in a position to request a second estimate in order to, confirm that. And to John's point, this early in the process, the second estimate is, highly likely to be right on with the first estimate that we're already getting. So, because the second estimator wouldn't have any access to any additional information or any more precise information than the first estimator already has.
Right, and 15 of that 18,000 that we're saving essentially at this point is the UDAG money that rolls in, so that's a decision then we really can wait until much later on to make.
And
Okay.
Dan, in your conversations with Vertex, do you think that they can,
Second,
what's that? Oh, okay.
have to second the motion.
All right,
Yeah, that's
last
good.
discussion.
She
then?
made the motion.
It's second.
Okay.
We have any last, that you have to have the last discussion.
And do you think will Vertex be open to that? Or do you think that that's a reasonable conversation for you to have with Vertex, that they would understand that?
Let me have a conversation. I think they'll be open, but we're gonna be talking. I don't want to say anymore. Line.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Since we are split, we need to vote roll call.
We're not finished the discussion yet, are we?
Oh, I don't know, but do you have more you want to add to it?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the motion to include the cost estimate as an add alternate.
Yeah, future authorization required.
Future authorization required or something along those lines. And the reason I say that
That's an
is
add alternate to
to
this
this,
contract.
to the base fee.
Okay,
An add alternate to the base fee is the 18,000. Because I don't want them to change that to 20 in the future. Or some other number.
yeah,
That's good time.
second that change.
Okay.
Am I right?
Yeah, we need a second to the add alternate.
Second.
So the,
Second. to the
Okay.
change.
to the amendments.
All right, any
We have to
any
vote on the
further
amendment first.
discussion on the amended motion? Okay, so then roll call. Ken,
Aye.
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 then it's Ellen,
Aye.
Linda.
Aye.
And chair says aye, so that passes unanimously. Wonderful. So Robert's Rules of Law. So did we pass the amended or now we have to go back to the
Original motion.
the original one? So you approved the amendment. Now we are approving the actual motion to approve the contract with Vertex for OPM based fees of $51,927 with the option of us add alternate to include the second cost estimate at 18,000. All right.
Aye.
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 Okay, chair says aye as well. All right, wonderful. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, so that is a major step forward. So Dan, will you,
Yeah,
okay,
I can take care of getting everything together and.
all right. And so then, that I think we can, as long as that's amenable to them, then we can get the contract off to Robert to sign, and he can just sign that. He doesn't need to,
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that will,
So then they'll be
that can be quick.
on board. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
Okay.
Question, once they're on board, how quickly will they start working?
I think that was immediate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get them going right away.
So do they need to meet with us? Or are they just gonna meet with Catlin or what?
I think that-
No, they'll meet with
The
us.
first thing they're gonna do is review the architect contract and then they'll meet with us. Yeah, they'll
Okay.
come to that prepared.
Because they have to be on board and we need to establish the official relationship with Vertex prior to finalizing the contract with John, I think, for schematic,
Right.
for the final schematic design.
Yeah, actually, to be really truthful about it, you're supposed to have it on board before you hired me. And whether you bring them on board now and negotiate my contract is irrelevant. They were supposed to be on board way back. Any project over $100,000 needs to have an OPM on it. And I'd mentioned that earlier, and I don't think it's a big deal. Almost all my clients wait till now to get an
Yeah.
OPM because they're so expensive.
Ken and I
The
counted.
problem is we're really running tight on time. So when I can get these guys in and just say, okay, the contract looks fine. I got to get this contract signed. I can't get my engineers going. And I can tell you right now, the remaining time is extremely tight. No matter what anybody thinks, this is very tight. I got to coordinate all these consultants. The OPM doesn't have to do any of that, but I have electrical, site, sewage, water, MEP, structural. In fact, Dan and I, we want to get the structural engineer started 2 weeks ago because he needs to lay out the steel for us to make sure we have all the walls in the right places. So I need to get this thing, I need closure on this thing. And we've been over backwards to get our numbers down for you. So just hurry up and get them a look. Have they seen it yet?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, Dan V, if you could chat with, I think you're going to be working with Brian Jarvis mostly.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian is a really good guy, and the man of consult. And the other guy is Bonifati. He used to own Compass. They joined Vertex. So Bonifati and Jarvis are absolutely straight up guys. I have no problems.
He's got a different,
So this, so that's a nice way in terms of a segue to the timeline. And
Can I just add something to what we were talking about? Can we give Vertex a deadline on when we need to have them approve the contract so we can go forward, like a week or something?
I mean, review it.
Yeah.
Do whatever they need to do to approve it so John can get started.
Yeah, I think a week is about the max you should give them.
Yeah.
Nothing to read the contract. In fact, it's almost the same contract we had in Walpole. I think they used an AIA one there. This is a typical, almost unaltered phase 2 contract that almost every city and town in the state uses. So they shouldn't have any problems. If there's even an inkling of problems, have Brian call me, figure out what the hell's going on.
Okay,
Just
but
for
if Dan, when you're negotiating with them, if we could tell them we are, we're running late, we're under the gun, we need to have this signed by next Friday or something like that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it won't take them long. I'll relay that. They know,
sooner.
they know schedule. Yeah, I'll remind them.
Okay,
I think it's important to note that Dan and I will be reviewing the contract at the same time. I'd be really surprised if they come up with something that's not already in the contract that goes to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also Brian, I have immense faith in Brian that he's smart, he's very experienced. I don't think he'll have a problem.
I mean, they've got 16 hours a week, 16 and a half hours a week on this project beginning in March. So they should be able to get that reviewed quickly. And
They're already 16 and a half hours behind.
I know.
Because they lost a week already.
So,
go.
Will that include
The
our
clarification.
meeting time? Them,
Yes,
them
it includes
attending
two
our
meeting a month.
meeting time? Okay.
yep,
Which is what, 6 hours? I mean, it's 4 hours?
4 hours.
Sorry, 4 hours, yeah.
4 hours, yeah. So,
Just for clarification, John, the
Yeah.
senior managing director is Brian Jarvis.
Yes,
So he's only in like for 1 hour a week. on this. He's just gonna check stuff over.
I know, but if I have a problem, I'm calling Brian, no matter how many hours he has.
The other one is Brian Flores with Flores, F-O-R.
Yeah, I don't know him. Yeah. I'm sure he's good. If he's working with Brian, I don't have a problem with him.
Yeah, okay.
Brian, did you guys interview these guys?
we did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did Brian come to it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he ran it.
Did he bring my letter of recommendation that I gave him? years ago. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, okay, good. I've got to sign off. My
Okay.
bedtime is 8 o'clock and I've got a half an hour to get ready. Love you guys. Take care.
Okay,
See
thanks, John.
you later.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night, John.
Bye.
Sleep well. Gotta go have a scotch on the
Right.
rocks.
Yeah.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Okay.
So in terms of the timeline. What do we, I guess, do we want to now start looking at what it might take to get this to town meeting and when that town meeting might be scheduled for, and then reason a little bit backwards to what, what the benchmarks are between now and then?
So I think that's something that, Bonnie's really been trying to hone in as we've gone. So I think, if you and I want to meet again.
Yeah.
Offline to talk about, back in,
So I think,
want to
Mhm.
meet offline to talk about how to refine that timeline and present it to everybody.
Yeah, and I think we need to sort of work backwards, and I think maybe one thing too is, there's, I don't have all the information, right? So it'd be, I think, wise maybe at whatever next meeting where we can get Brian in to have a look at the timeline and try to sort of get it more resolved.
But part of their scope of
that's-
work is that they're gonna take over this document.
They're
They're
gonna
gonna do, they're gonna put together a schedule.
Right.
So,
So-
I mean, I think
Yeah.
we don't have to spend a ton of
No.
time on it because I think they're gonna take it over, but whatever we have.
Yeah.
we post and update.
Revise it a little bit, right, to where we are now, and then we hand it over, right?
Tell us what, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we gonna shoot for fall town meeting, or are we gonna try to shoot for a special town meeting before fall town meeting, or are we gonna go for after?
I think it's really too early to know that. I don't think we're gonna be able to definitively say that until June 30th, when our final price is done. And, everything I have anecdotally heard is that the select board doesn't like late summer, early fall meetings because there's not enough people in town to support them.
Yeah.
I don't know that from a senior constituency perspective, I don't believe that. I don't think that's true. But when you look at the total tax burden to the taxpayers and the impact it might have, I think they probably are gonna
You're
want
gonna need,
everybody to be available.
we'll have to look at outreach, right? Like summertime, you really don't do a lot of outreach because everyone's vacation wherever.
Right.
So you really got September and October, town meetings end of October.
Yeah.
Probably just a fall town meeting, I would say for that unless otherwise.
So
I think we're like 95% sort of sure that it's gonna be a fall town meeting.
Yeah,
So there's no way to, so we're giving up the idea of a special time for the strategic political purposes of a special town meeting. And we're also giving up any thought of having breaking ground before next spring. That is, there's no way that,
there's no, I'll take it to it if you want. So we're only gonna go to town meeting with schematic design. So whenever we go to the town meeting, we only have schematic design.
Right.
From that point on, even when we give the contract out for the rest of the design, we're talking about 3, 4, 5 months just to finish the design.
right.
So you've got to go from schematic design to what's the next phase?
Design development.
Design development, then you go to
Bidding.
80% drawings and then 100% drawings and then the bidding.
It's like 6 months.
So yes, you're right. You're talking about the next spring.
Yeah,
So
If it's a fall, any
That was-
time in the fall will take us into the winter.
that was why it's in March, or it almost didn't matter after you slipped past that, because you were gonna go to the next one, no matter what.
Takes a long time just to bid the thing and get what do you call it, qualified sub bids and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
then you get your contract,
Qualification.
it takes you 2 months, you do submit shop drawing submittals, material, before they even mobilize, right? Yeah.
so the idea of a special town meeting in mid-September, let's say, would not get us anywhere.
I think we should still have that conversation. I think once schematic design is done and we're bringing a final number back to the select board, capital planning and FinCom, I think
Yeah.
we can have that discussion at that point. I do think there is some strategic advantage to being at a standalone. I'm not gonna call it a special town meeting because fall meeting is technically a special town meeting, but being a standalone, single warrant article.
No question.
I think-
You know, but-
And that's the key word is strategy. I think once, and like come June, we should start strategizing, okay, how are we gonna move this forward with our
Mhm.
public information on this? And you know, we probably, one of the things we wanna do is be going to various boards to get their vote of support toward it. So that's gonna take time. So we'll have to lay that all out. You know, I think we'll have to come up with a plan and lay it out in a timeline.
Yeah.
Probably not be enough to worry about that till June-ish probably, but
Yeah.
could start doing it earlier.
I think, just getting back, I know we just awarded it. We're gonna have to manage these hours as well. Believe me, this contract is based on a fixed number of hours. And they're all displayed here, and so we, as a committee,
Gonna
we
have-
can't arbitrarily just say, go do this. We have to know that we have enough
Yeah.
time in their OPM job to be.
So we're gonna have to know, we're gonna have to be very precise
We
in
know it.
what we are asking them to do.
Right.
Correct.
So let's say, for instance, so for the month of March, right, we already know, so 16 hours, 4 hours will be our meeting.
No, 16 hours a week,
16 hours a week?
16 and a half
Yeah.
hours a week.
Oh, a week. Oh, a week.
Yeah,
Forget that. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, you got it. It's on that-
It's on this one.
it's on the back page.
Yeah.
It's on the back page.
So on this,
On
on
the
this
back
page
It breaks,
here,
the second page, it breaks it
second
right there.
page, it has it broken out by the weekly or by the monthly hours
Right.
of each person.
So they just take all these numbers and multiply them by their hourly rate and they get the total.
If you look in this the middle
Yeah,
chart
yeah,
here, that's the
yeah,
weekly
okay.
hours. So you're gonna get only half an hour a week from the first Brian.
Okay,
And then 6 hours a week from Brian
Mhm.
Fours, right?
Right.
Is his name, and then 10 hours a week from.
The other gentleman, I closed it. I
Yeah,
can
you
find
you
it
had
again
it
if you
open,
want.
yeah.
all right.
So, you've got basically 16 and a half hours, and then you obviously have your time for your accounting and those are back of the house people, but
Yeah, so March, then we're already a week through, so the first week, we should be able to get twice the amount of hours because they've already missed a week. Or I don't know, are they gonna divide it by thirds and give you 2 extra hours?
So these are assumptions they made
There's
to
a,
get to a number. Some weeks will be less, some weeks will be more.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a, a budget and they're gonna be hitting the job, all the different people who are doing it. And then, if they're getting close to going over that budget, they may want to approach us to ask for more money if we start doing a lot more things that possibly outside of scope. But if they were to do that, we're like, are you gonna show us all your backup, to show, and this is why we need it for it. And because I used to work in consulting and that's how it is. And, usually if you get tight on budget, then you hone in and you never want to go back to the client, I need more money or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it'll work. And it's not like, okay, this guy will be here a week and, right.
So, I think to that point, I think we as a committee have to be,
we have to manage.
yes, but we have to be clear-eyed in our thinking and precise in what we are asking for. In order to kind of keep them on task, but also to kind of keep them within budget and to keep good faith with what we're asking them to do. We can't just be kind of, please come talk to us and hold our hand. It has to be more, we need you to tell us this, or please find out this, or whatever the case may be.
I think I'm gonna speculate now, which I shouldn't do, but the concept of the OPM, in my estimation, is based on a weakness in most committees. That the towns and the committees may not be qualified to do the work they're doing.
Oh, sure.
So you have to have this expert, outside expert, to protect the town.
Yeah.
In our case, I think we're being pretty proactive. So
Yeah.
we are gonna work with them, but they're not gonna run the whole show.
No, and I suspect that when the state drew up the regulations and the laws,
Yeah.
that engineering firms and contractors were heavily involved in requiring more people to be employed in order to make sure,
What they were doing is they were ripping everybody off and everybody got upset and the state said, hey, wait a minute, we need somebody to supervise and make sure these guys aren't really ripping everybody off.
Exactly.
Like the tunnel, the big Boston tunnel project?
Oh, I
We'll let the
first
consultant
saw that
report.
place.
All right,
so I think that brings us down to,
It's-
no, I'm trying to move us down. So, So for legislative earmarks, I did hear back, Robert talked to, Representative Sina on, last week before, and he's gonna be submitting a, earmark for $100,000. But to set expectations, that full amount might not get accepted. So what we had sort of verbally talked about before, when I talked to him was, usually he can get $50,000, but Jamie Eldridge is more likely to get 100,000 and he's more likely to get 50,000. So Representative Sina is gonna put in for 100. But all of our things that we have been talking about have been sort of estimating about 150 to 200,000 in legislative earmarks. So we'll see where that.
So Cena has doubled his earmark for the community.
Right.
Naturally, I would think that the senator would have to, in order to.
Why not? Yeah. So
We're
at
gonna
some
beat him
point,
next week.
I mean, he'll be here at the senior center next week for a meet and greet with the seniors. So if anybody wants to
What day?
is, I don't know, it's not right in front of me. Hang on, let me grab it.
Wednesday at 12:30, I think.
Wednesday?
Yeah, it's a Wednesday. Serving stuffed shells from Lazy Mary's if anybody
Oh,
wants to have.
they're pretty good.
Love it. Okay, yeah.
I'll bring them like, I'll bring them like.
It doesn't get any simpler than a stuffed shell.
No, but at Lazy Mary.
No, I had some
Time.
I like
the sign up. We make your own.
You never end up going there just because it's further away than.
Yeah.
Lunch.
That was a popular lunch. We're getting close to full, so if you want to be able to.
How old do we have to be in order to sign up for lunch?
You can be 60 or otherwise retired, living a retired lifestyle.
50s, 50 you covered.
You're retired, right?
Are you tired of 65?
All right, so,
Well.
so at some point, we're going to need, a project synopsis, some sort of a background overview of the project to submit for that legislative earmark. So, I believe that needs to be submitted in April. Robert told me he would get back to me with a little bit more refined timeline as he knew it. So, if anybody wants to work on that with me, that would be
I would be happy
fantastic.
to do that. Is there a template or previous examples of a synopsis? We can, do we know?
So that's a great idea. We can look around a little bit and see. Otherwise, we can
Robert,
take
you
some
know
of our,
what word- Okay. no,
otherwise we
yeah,
can kind of take some of,
Yeah.
we can take some of our previous things and
Document.
and documents.
No, I-
Isn't that our
There
architect's
may be-
job? To give us some kind of a synopsis like that, isn't it in this contract that he's supposed to do the feasibility study?
He's doing it right now.
And so he should have some kind of paperwork put together for us that we should be able to ask John and say, hey,
We kind of have it already.
Yeah,
somebody's gotta have that
I think
already.
you can generate.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about our ability to generate it, but I think always looking at what is included in other people's is not a bad idea.
Right, and I think that the formatting of it just tends to matter, how it's formatted in terms of.
Yeah,
The
I
application. for
think
the
your
grants.
PowerPoint presentation,
Right.
a lot of that might go into it.
Yep. So we can work on that, come up with something. And then the same thing for, kind of related to the timeline is the CPC application now is not going to be due in March.
Yeah.
It's going to be due, so we're going to need to schedule a time someone is going to need to reach out to CPC to get a new timeline from them based on a fall town meeting. Because they will still need to do a hearing sometime in late September to early October.
And this is for the money for the
The
courts.
pickleball courts,
Yeah.
yeah, so that will need to be adjusted in our timeline.
Whatever money we can get from them.
So when did you say late?
Because they said that they needed, if you look at that one, they said they needed an entire month for a public hearing about it
Right.
before it was a warrant article.
They have
Because
a
it's sort of like
specific-
two meetings.
They have a specific form. You have to fill the
Yeah,
form.
right,
Submit the
right.
form.
Yeah,
They approve the form.
they prove
And
it,
they advertise for the hearing.
right.
So it
2
was,
weeks and then they go.
so it was essentially we had to have the form in February
Mhm.
before their February meeting.
Right.
So that they could have a hearing in March before it went to
Right.
April town meeting.
Right.
So I think you're that's gonna shift to August to
So we're
October.
looking to August,
Yeah,
September.
and so then we'll need to
Yeah.
have, when that comes up, when that gets closer, we'll need to have a
Isn't that kind of the cart
subcommittee.
before the horse, though? Don't we have to wait till the project is approved?
So I think there'll be back-to-back warrant articles.
Yep, yep.
That's
So
the way
if
it
so
comes.
if that the senior center fails, then that one would just be.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of,
thrown out.
yeah.
And there will be other, how the money is apportioned, that is, there may well be separate warrant articles in order for us to be able to access the money from X fund, Y fund.
Right,
And then the free, wherever it's coming from, and then the CPC funds, so.
right. So, and I
Mhm.
will let the town manager's office determine the order, but there will be a vote to approve the town meeting or to approve the project at X total price, either immediately preceded or immediately followed by, a article to authorize this much from free cash and an article to authorize this much from capital stabilization and this much from CPC in order to
And then the.
bring. And that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so the bond, there'll be an article for the bond, and then
Yeah.
there'll be an article for each of those other sources of funding. And like I said, I don't know if they go right before it or right after it, but it will be a series.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, it's related to it. All right. Anything else before we go to public input? All right, is there any public input?
From the iPhone?
Excuse me.
All right, seeing none, when do we want to meet again? So if you talk to Vertex, today's Thursday, right? So, I mean, it's possible we'd have something to sign by Monday and, right, and then, I can give Robert a heads up tomorrow, that we might be seeking his signature early next week. So then
Yeah.
if that's the case and we wanted to give them a week to then look through the things, do we want to meet again on the 20th?
So I think that's probably reasonable. I think one thing, I don't think we've done yet, has the committee voted at all to approve the funding toward the architect's schematic design?
No, because we thought we had to wait for them to look at it.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think, does the committee need to meet again to, see that contract and approve it? Or do we want to just, or does the committee want to do like a vote now and say, up to the number based on the review and negotiation between the OPM?
So
You know what I'm saying? Just trying to
So
get it so
that John
that there's a
can
way
get
Catherine can
started.
get going. Yeah.
so.
Do we want to do anything like that, or do we just want to meet again?
So I think if we did that, it would be pending approval of the OPM. Or,
Not
Based on the
to be
OPM's review of
executed
the contract.
before the given date, or not to be executed before the.
Well, it's as negotiated by the OPM and, kind of like what we just did, the sort of sub work group,
right, yeah,
Unless the
We could
OPM
do
just
that.
says that blesses the contract, says this is a perfectly written.
yeah, like I
contract.
said, and we've been over that contract with him a couple times. We said, we're not really sure what they're gonna offer to it, but then if Vertex does offer something substantive in terms of edits, then I think we're probably gonna want to bring it back to the committee
yeah,
anyway.
you need to review that.
Yeah,
And we want to give Vertex time to, we don't want to be dismissive of their need to review the, you know what I mean? I think we want to provide them enough time to look at it and give it some level of thoughtful consideration before.
Yeah, it shouldn't take them long.
Yeah,
Maybe
but,
2 hours.
John needs as much time as possible.
right,
too.
so then do we want to try and meet more like on the 13th then? Because we were just saying while you were stepped away that do we want to go ahead and approve the schematic design contract here tonight contingent upon a satisfactory review by the OPM? Or do we want to wait?
I love it.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
do we
keep
want
them moving, keep that one, like,
Yeah.
up to an amount.
Yeah.
Upon negotiated satisfactory review between.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to do the little sub work again and the OPM's
What do we,
assistance.
did we already do public input?
yeah, there's nobody for
So
public
then we
input.
came back to this topic.
So now we're talking about next meeting. And when we were talking about the next meeting, we were saying if we wait to the 20th to meet again on a 2-week schedule, then that's really giving Vertex 2 weeks to review the contract rather than one, and it doesn't allow Catlin to get going. So we either need to meet sooner on the 13th, probably,
Or 14.
or you want to meet on a Friday night?
No, because then they won't sign the contract until the following week. I mean,
Right,
if we
so-
meet on a Thursday and everything's
No, stop
approved,
it.
we can sign it on Friday.
So we either need to meet again on the 13th, or we need to pass this motion tonight that we approve it contingent upon a satisfactory review
And
by the OPM.
So my thoughts on that, if anyone's interested, is that I will go on record, and I've said it before, that John will not change his price. That the only thing the OPM will probably be doing is analyzing the context in the language of the contract. John's not gonna change his price. His price has been brought down through our process.
Yeah.
So I believe it should be easy for the OPM to just go through, we'll do the same thing
Right,
and see if there's any contract language that he's uncomfortable with. But John's had the same contract that's been used for, a lot of jobs. So I think it's a great idea.
yeah,
All right, so then, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the schematic design contract up to the amount of 171,000 contingent upon a satisfactory review?
I think you just did it.
Okay, I make the motion.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, okay, so then we need to do a roll call.
Any further
Ken?
discussion?
Oh, wait, sorry, any further discussion? No, all right, Ken,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Dave.
Hi,
Aye.
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Linda?
Hi.
All right, and the chair says aye, so that passes. All right, wonderful. So, and I see Dan is still on, so he's
Oh.
hearing the update on that as well, so that's good.
Yes, I did hear that. Thank you.
Okay.
Realize he was dead. Okay. all right.
Supposed to have your earmuffs on.
so if it's signed by Monday, you can be working by Tuesday.
Yeah,
He's already
I'll be waiting for the phone call.
all right.
He's already
Oh,
Yeah, so.
Believe me, they've already let you know.
So
Okay.
when are we gonna meet on the 20th or what?
It's me next week.
Those are really good, and then, yeah, you want me to, yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, we'll have to make sure it works, we really wanna have like an initial meeting with the OPM now, right?
Right,
And go over his scope of work, discuss the things like the schedule and any other items he thinks would be good to discuss, and then obviously Catlin will have started to get going, and we'll talk about, future expectations we have for the OPM involved with the design review. So that's my opinion.
So, want the
Should that be a daytime meeting? With the
I mean,
OPM?
it can be, so this is something that we are gonna want to discuss and balance out over time. How many, do we want to keep going in the evening? Do we want to alternate meeting times? I know it makes it harder for Linda to join, for example, during the day. And Dan,
I can jump in, yeah.
so. I mean, I think going forward, we probably are gonna need to mix it up a little.
It's hard to get that room. Hard to get
To
a
get-
room.
Well, and that's the other thing is that, so if you do it in the evening, town hall is rarely available. This place is always available. If we do it during the day, it's much harder to get this room and a little bit easier to get town hall, but it's not wide open. It's booked for some portion of most days. So we won't all fit around your table, Dan.
Could we have a 3 o'clock
you-
meeting at, the senior center if necessary?
Yes,
Could do that.
yeah, we can do a 3 o'clock meeting.
Does the library have a room? Does the library have a meeting room that's
They have a meeting
Zoom
room. Police
capable?
department- police
Not
department has a
Zoom
meeting room.
capable.
Yeah, the police department has one.
They have a nice
Is
room.
the one at town
There's
hall,
a-
the upstairs one?
They don't like it acoustically. it's not-
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
the
what it is.
acoustics are-
You're right, with the DPW, we have a conference
DPW,
room,
perfect.
and we've used it for the
Yeah.
cemetery commission meetings that use
Okay.
it, and it's Zoom capable.
Yeah.
Not the fanciest technology, but it all works.
I love the DPW.
Yeah.
It's great. It's got windows, nice.
Residential.
It's an
Why is it
option.
residential?
So yeah, if we need a daytime meeting, that's definitely an option. DPW. Evening too, but.
What's that?
You've been down there, right?
I've been down there. I've never actually stepped foot in the room, but
It's a nice room.
Yeah, it's good furniture.
It's right off the front. You don't even have to go inside.
So did we decide on the 13th or the 20th? So if we, I think we could do the 20th, that way they can have made some progress
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
have time to really, Vertex will have time to really present to us those timeline documents and all that stuff.
And are they aware, I'm assuming they're aware that there's a substantial amount of the work that, that Dan and,
Work
Ken
took place.
has put in, it's all online. I mean, they can be reviewing those. I mean, there's a ton of,
Yeah, but
Yeah, I talked to him a little bit about
there,
that,
yeah.
so he's aware.
He isn't doing anything till he gets that signed contract and that check.
and yeah.
He's not doing anything till he gets that check in his hand.
So what time do you think on the 20th? Are we doing daytime or evening? I'm good with
6
either.
o'clock again?
I like 6 o'clock.
I
You
like
like
to,
6 o'clock?
I do.
Fine with
yeah,
me.
maybe 2.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ellen had asked for the day.
Oh.
No, I had asked the day because I thought it would be easier for Vertex, because they had said something, I thought, at the meeting about mixing it up a little bit, whatever.
Well, a couple of those guys live in Pittsburgh, so
Right
they,
nearby.
Yeah,
or Lunenburg or
I
somewhere.
think when we get
Yeah,
more.
they
to
live
it,
within a half an hour.
we do certain things like
But that can be something we discuss during
Right.
that kickoff meeting with them is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah,
Keep it at
keep our
6.
standard meetings.
So are they
Yeah.
are we gonna have them come to that meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'd want them in person. Yeah. At least one of them in person.
All right, so March 20th. Yeah. All right, anything else before we adjourn?
I had something, at the last Friends meeting or the one before last, the fellow Bob, former judge, he's on the CO.
Gardner.
Okay.
Yeah,
He said that he is willing to donate a professional level pool table that he has, billiards table he has in his garage. That's
Wow.
something that somebody should go take a look at and
I'll see
see
it.
if that's worthwhile, because if it is, we might want to include it on the plan. You know, because right now there's no room for it. It's all card tables.
Right, I mean, there's
There's-
dotted lines in there for the spaces
Yeah,
reserved. for
there's
it.
space required. Yeah, the space is.
no, that's very generous of them.
Yeah,
That's,
That's awesome.
yeah, that's very
He
nice.
wants to get it out of his.
Linda, did you have your hand up, Linda?
Yeah, so I just want to make a couple comments. So I can actually help with the project synopsis. I'm familiar with that.
Right.
Also, going back onto Ken's, when he was just saying about keeping track of the OPM's time and this and, tracking or this and that. How are they communicating with us, or who are they communicating, or is that something that's going to be determined? Are we going to get weekly updates? I know on a lot of large projects that we have going, we get weekly updates every week for the committee. And then when it goes to, when they're actually working in the field, it's something that's public knowledge what the updates are.
Right, yeah, I think they had said that during the interview, is that they'd be providing weekly updates up until the construction phase, and then they would be daily updates, right? Because you were asking about weather
They'll do
reports
daily
and,
reports.
yeah, yeah.
It'll be a weekly summary, but they'll be
Yeah.
daily reports.
Yeah, and I think at that initial meeting on the 20th, we'll discuss communication channels.
Just
Thank you.
just to clarify, Linda, so what we have with Vertex now is they'll be working with us until June 30th.
Correct.
And then after that, we'll see you know, it's contingent on all the other things falling into place.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So Dan, have you already notified the other candidates for OPM? About,
Actually, a couple of them, no, but I haven't notified all of them. I need
Right.
I need to get the final list of
Right, okay.
the order we put them in. I have to
Okay.
Send that out.
Oh, I had,
So I get still notified.
oh, yeah,
Okay.
I had Max put that up.
Okay.
So,
All right,
yeah,
I'll
I'm
take
sorry,
care
I
of
just
that.
had him put it up yesterday and I didn't close the loop with,
Yeah,
so you will notify, okay.
PMA and Colliers are aware, and Lyro Hill. But the rest of the gang, no one's reached out and I haven't, so I'll reach out.
thanks.
Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for him to put
Yeah,
that
I
up, and I
forgot.
think he put it up.
should've reached out to you.
Yeah, okay. All right, so, all right, motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
all right, seconded,
Second?
all right, all in favor,
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Ellen, Linda?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so chair says aye, we are adjourned at 8:10 PM.